All right, here's just a couple questions from the assignment. I deal with finding zeros and knowing what happens with zeros and that kind of thing. So there's 36, they want you to find the zeros. Well, I have two of these, so I can rewrite that as x squared minus 5x plus 6 times x squared minus 5x plus 6. And I can keep rewriting that. I'll just keep going this way. I can factor this into x minus 3, x minus 2, and then the next one, the same thing, x3, x minus 2. So if they want to know what the zeros are, the zeros are going to be a positive 3, a positive 2, positive 3, positive 2. Or in other words, I could say that the 0 is 3 with a multiplicity of 2, because there's 2 of them, and 2, again, with a multiplicity of 2. Okay, so if that's looking for the zeros, that's what you would do. You could graph that, I guess, too. If you wanted to graph it, there's 4. I don't think you have to graph in 4.1. Anyway, you could graph that at 2, and at 3, stuff happens with the graph. If there's 4 zeros, then the graph looks like a W graph. So this one would come down, and since the multiplicity is 2, it just comes and touches at that point and goes back up, and then it'll do the same thing at 3. So that's sort of what the graph of that one might look like. Okay, this next one, again, it's an x to the 4th, so it'll have this kind of shape to it. But to factor that, I'm just going to sort of pretend like it's an x squared. So I'm just going to split this, so it'll be an x squared here and an x squared there. And then two things that multiply to 3 and add to negative 4, I think are minus 3 and minus 1. And then, if to find the zeros for that, I guess this one I could factor again, x minus 1, x plus 1. So I'd have a 0 of 1 and a 0 of minus 1. This one to find the 0, since this doesn't have a square root, perfect square root, I could just set it equal to 0. So x squared minus 3 equals 0. And then say x squared is equal to 3. And then x is equal to positive or negative 3. So, square root. I have to square root both sides. So a square root of that. So x will be equal to a positive or negative square root of 3. And those would be my 4 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, here's another question where it says, it's asking if it's true or false. And they say, does the graph of this function cross the axis at this point? So it's not saying is 3 a 0. It's saying, does it go through the axis? Well, here is the 0 for that. So this has a 0 of 3, and since there's 4 of them, it has a multiplicity of 4. And anytime you have an even multiplicity, the graph, if it's at 3, would just come down and touch there and go back. So it would not cross. So this one, not going to cross. The next question, they give you a quartic polynomial that defines record sales or something. They want to know how many albums are sold in 2008. So, and X is the number of years after 2007. So from 2001 to 2007, that's 7 years. So what I'll do is I'll just take and put a 7 in everywhere I see an X, and then multiply that out on the calculator and see what it comes out to. That's how you do that one. This next one, projectile motion, a stone thrown downward, initial velocity, whatever. And so here is the polynomial that defines that path. And then they say, if the height is 294, how long will it take this stone to hit the ground? So they want to know what time is. And this here would be a height, and that's what S of t is. So S of t is the height. So distance at a specific time. So I'm going to put the 294 in where that is equal to 4.9 t squared plus 34.3 t. And now, this is t squared. This is a quadratic, so I'll make it equal to 0. 4.9 t squared plus 34.3 t minus 294. And so it's a quadratic, so I could use a quadratic formula to solve that. I could try and factor it. One thing that I would do if I have it equal to 0, you might try and divide this by 4.9 and that by 4.9 and this by 4.9. I guess I have to divide that by 4.9 too. So 0 is equal to, this would be t squared, and then just hope that that comes out to an even number. So 34.3 divided by that, I don't know what it comes out to. And when you divide that, not sure what it comes out to. But if they go out evenly, then you could factor the polynomial like that. All right, I hope that helped with those questions.